Okay, we are live.
All right, well, good evening, everyone, and call the meeting to order for the Architectural Review Board here on Thursday, May 11th, 2023. And ask the staff, if you would, to call the roll.
All right, yes, Mr. Chair.
Here.
I got you down. Member Jones? Well, I see you. Member Loja? Not here. Secretary Ritter?
Present.
Member Parsons?
Here.
Alternate Welker is not here. Alternate Bartlesmeyer is here. We just need to promote him. Alternate Rotterman is not here. Council Liaison Clark
Here.
and Commission Liaison Cone.
Here.
All right, we do have quorum. Thank
All
you.
right, we do have a quorum. We will proceed. And do we need to have any alternates fill any spots because we're missing anybody? No, everyone is a member. We have one missing, don't we, in terms of members? So we need to have one alternate fill in.
That is correct.
And I'm trying to look based on my notes. I guess Alex Bartlesmeyer is an alternate. So in voting, you get to vote, Alex. If we're not a lot to vote on tonight, but be prepared for that. And then also, as folks are wanting to speak, if you would use the raise hand feature so that both I will know and the staff will know that we're trying to do that. Any other things, housekeeping, before we get started with the other actions? Robin, or okay. Well, the first action we do have is you were given the draft meeting minutes from the April 13th meeting. And so a motion would be in order to approve the minutes of the April 13th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Alex moves to approve. Member
I second.
Bartlesmeyer. And who was that? Ritter?
Parsons. I
Parsons,
second.
sorry. Oh, down there. Okay, I'm looking at my screen and trying to see where it's coming from. All right, Member Parsons seconds. Any additions or corrections? All those in favor say, oh, I'm sorry, Teresa, Ms. Clark.
Yeah, just one comment about the minutes. If we could get those condensed a little bit so they go on a couple of pages instead of 7 pages, it would be a little helpful.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments or additions or changes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? The ayes have it, the minutes are approved. The next item I see on the agenda then is reviewing the agenda for this evening's meeting, and we will have a public comment period, should there be any public comments. And then we will go into the primary purpose this was called for is regarding a sign request, and then any old business if there is any. And then I think that's it. If I kind of covered the bases, okay. Any additions or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll proceed in that way. I will ask if there are any public comments from anyone who's may be on, but I don't see anyone other than maybe our applicant who is online. But are there any public comments?
I don't see any, Chair. Thank you.
Very good. Then if we will then proceed, is there any old business that anyone does have? We didn't have anything on the agenda, but does anyone have any? If not, we will then proceed to new business. And it is the SSM Health Physical Therapy, which we will ask the staff to read that into the record, if you would.
All right, the first item on the agenda is SSM Health Physical Therapy at 16962 Manchester Road, which is a review of 2 new signs associated with a new business located within an existing historic building, both requiring variances from the Board of Adjustment.
All right. And would you go ahead and introduce our applicant or application person, if you would, please?
Mr. Chair, I have prepared a presentation.
Oh,
so I'll go
okay,
ahead
please.
and
I'm
share my
sorry.
Screen.
Please.
All right. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Our first case this evening, as read into the record, concerns a property located at 16962 Manchester Road. And the historic building that is located there, though this new business will be going into the addition part of that original historic building. It is located within our town center area at the intersection of Etherton and Manchester Road at a commercial plaza here. It's in our historic Grover area, which I have featured here so you could get a sense of the character. This is across the street from the structure in question. And then this is a picture of the rear of the building in the commercial plaza in the back parking area. The property is zoned planned commercial district, which has a governing ordinance associated with it that has been included in your report this evening. That ordinance is number 2754, and it's an amended ordinance. So as you can see, these red areas are all C8 planned commercial district, and then the yellow areas back here are all residential. As noted, this does concern a historic structure in Wildwood with some historic significance to our community. The original building was built in approximately 1850. It is most popularly known as Funk's Grove, back when this area was a general store and popular picnic area. And then it was occupied by the City of Wildwood's first City Hall from 1995 to 2009. The sign variance does concern the more recent edition of the building, which was built in the, I believe it was the 1980s, 1990s portion of it. Here you see an aerial of the building in question. Again, this is the more recent edition. The applicant is requesting a sign attached to the building on the front portion of it facing Manchester Road, and an additional sign also attached to the building at the rear of it facing this back parking area and commercial plaza. Here you can see the sign as featured by the applicant. This is what the applicant submitted to us. They're proposing 1/2-inch thick acrylic letters mounted to the building. Their variance request is to have 28-inch high lettering in lieu of the 24 inches required by our code. However, we would note that a very similar variance was granted in 2012 for this same location. And in fact, it was a more substantial variance as well. And some of the justification has to do with these 2 utility poles blocking this area, perhaps reducing the visibility of the signage. The applicant is also requesting sign variances for a sign located on the rear of the building. So this is the area facing that commercial parking lot. They're requesting 33-inch high lettering in lieu of 24 inches. And then they're also requesting to have an internally lit sign with LED lighted channel lettering in lieu of a shielded externally lit sign, which is required by the City of Wildwood zoning code. So all 3 requests will need to go before the Board of Adjustment next Thursday in order for the applicant to go forward with this request. However, in the instance of sign variance requests, it is required by our code that the Architectural Review Board provide its comments, suggestions, and recommendations to the Board of Adjustment prior to the hearing on the case. So tonight, we are not asking for a formal action from you. However, we will be taking inventory of your comments, suggestions, and recommendations and putting them in a memorandum that we will send out to you prior to the meeting for your review, and then we will present that to the board. And thus concludes my presentation on the subject. So at this time, we'll let Mr. Quinn take over the presentation. And of course, we are available for questions.
So, Mr. Quinn, are you here? I do not see on my screens. Oh, Mr. Quinn, yes, Sean Quinn. You're on.
Mr. Quinn, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Quinn?
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for that. So yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for going ahead and listening to my request. I guess it was very well presented. Thank you, Robin, for going ahead and doing that. I guess what questions do you guys, this is my first time having to go through this experience. So honestly, I'm kind of new to the situation. What kind of questions do you guys have for me?
Any board members have any questions or comments?
I just have one. I can't find where I raised my hand here.
Go ahead, Mr. Parsons.
Well, in the front, you got those two telephone poles smack dab right in front, and it's gonna, and it seems to me it would block your signage regardless. But you have a peak on the building just to the right of that, just to the right of the picture. And I'm just wondering why you didn't do something on the peak there, because then your signage would stand out more and not be blocked by the telephone poles. And I mean, similar to what, a sign similar to what you're putting on the back of the building. I mean, you see what I'm saying there? Your sign would stand out better than being blocked.
Absolutely. From my understanding, just from the company that's going ahead and installing our sign, is just because there's an access door there. And so that's why they want to do it, just to be able to kind of give notification.
Okay. Where's the access door you're talking about?
Right, the peak of where in the front side, that's exactly where the sign, that's one of the doors, like an entrance into the facility, just to be able to give it notification. So right in through that area. I understand
Well,
what
you
you're
got
saying. I'm sorry.
fancy round circle window, and I'm thinking, could you go up above that, up there, or right below it, right above the three lower windows there? I'm just trying to figure out how you can have your signage look a little bit better and stand out so people see it without the poles in the way. That was.
Yes, sir. And so I apologize. So I'm a physical therapist by training. So I'm kind of going off recommendations from what the sign company gave me. And that is a great point that I'm happy to go ahead and be able to have it done that way too.
I think it just would look better over there, I think, but that's just me.
No, that's a fair recommendation. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes, I'm just concerned about the internally lit signs. I believe that's, against our zoning sign ordinance. And I'm curious, where else within the town center do we have internally lit signs? Can anybody answer that for me? I think Deerbergs may have one. That's the only one I'm aware of. I know Walgreens fought for years for it and was denied. So I just don't feel comfortable establishing that we are now allowing internally lit signs where we have not in the past.
Mr. Cohen, I'll answer this a little bit as probably the longest sitting member of this board. This has come up a few times with us. This board presented before with internally lit signs, and the city can verify if they're still underneath this, but we've always been told that exactly it's against the city ordinance and that it would have to basically it was not up for us to make a recommendation. So that's at least what I've been told in the past about that. So as for the sizing, I understand why that's up to us, but
Okay, thank you. Ms. Clark.
Thank you. Yeah, I had the same, a couple of the same concerns. The first one was the location of the sign. And because of the posts in the front of it, for your benefit, it's not a good placement. And it just needs a variance when moving it over to the other area would eliminate that. And the sign, the size, I'm a little concerned about that too, because I don't know why you would need something larger than what is recommended by the city in the ordinances already. And the biggest one is the lighting of the sign, having it lit. I think that our code says it must be lit by external sources only, instead of saying it should be or it could be, or by a variance it could be internal. So I would say that wouldn't. I'm like Mr. Bartlemeyer. We don't have a vote on that. That's already set in stone, and we've had that issue come up before. So those are my three major objections with this. The size of the sign. Why do you need it bigger than what we recommend? The location. Why would you need to put it where it's at instead of moving it over so that it's not hidden by those posts? And the being lit is not a question. It's just a fact.
Okay, thank you. I think we had Mr. Ritter. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Keefe, go ahead. You had a comment? You're still on mute.
Sorry, I unmuted myself. I just wanted to clarify for this board that you are reviewing a variance to the lighting requirements for the sign as part of this review. So that's essentially saying that yes, code does not say that you can have an internally lit sign, but the applicant is requesting that they receive a variance from the code to have this internally lit sign. So your comments as to the lighting are very much a part of this discussion, and we will be passing that forward to the Board of Adjustment.
And they would be able to make that judgment. We don't need to take any formal action. You simply will share those comments. Is that what I'm understanding?
That is your role. Your role is to
Yes.
provide those comments to the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment will make the ultimate decision, but you will have a voice in it.
And Ms. Jones. Leslie Jones, looks like you may be frozen on my screen. Ms. Jones? I think you're frozen. I'm not seeing any motion or activity. Let me go to Mr. Ritter, and Ms. Jones, maybe you can try to see if you can get unfrozen somehow. Mr. Ritter.
I had wondered about the color of the sign. What was driving that particular color? If you're trying to backlight it and it's a black sign, the lettering won't show up anyway.
Am I okay to speak to that?
Yes, please.
Okay,
If you wish.
so the colors are way above my pay grade, sir, so I don't go ahead and choose any of the colors of the signage at all. I understand the variance on the lighting, and you can't blame me for trying to ask. I understand, but it never hurts to ask. What's the worst thing you guys are gonna say? No, but it never hurts to go ahead and ask. With necessarily like the sizing of the lighting, from what my sign fella has told me, is that with it only being able to be allowed to be like 24 inches high on the letters, that the letters were only gonna be like 10 inches relative to the spacing on the other parts of the sign. So it's just trying to be able to have more space to make it more noticeable. So, because the sign's going to be important just as our identity. So just trying to make sure that they know that we're in the area to be able to go ahead and grow our business and support the community.
All right, Mr. Bartlesmeyer?
I believe Mr. Cohn had his hand raised before I did, so. you can go.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cohen.
Back to the question about internally lit sign. Given the fact that this building is on I don't want to call it a side street, but it's not like off Highway 100 or down a street that has high speed volume, together with the fact that it's at a stop sign. I just don't see the need to have an internally lit sign. Already given the fact that it's against our zoning code, it seems like if there's going to be an exception made, it should be where visibility is truly a problem, which I don't believe it's a problem when you're slowing down and come to a stop sign and looking at that building. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. I see think we have Ms. Jones back, and I don't know if you still wanted to speak or comment, but looks like we have access if you want to
Can
go
you hear
ahead
me?
and comment. Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm actually in the parking lot at my son's game. So, I just had a question about the drawing. Is that to scale or is that just for reference? Like the lettering on there, is it scaled and that's exactly what it'll look like, or is that just a reference that you put on there?
Honestly, the presentation is what I was given from my sign manufacturer. So I apologize. I cannot speak to the specifics of that.
Okay, I was just wondering if that's a direct representation, and then I would just agree with the others that you should probably just move it to the right because there's a lot going on there with the two poles, the light, the soffit board or whatever. It's just a lot, and I think that it'd be clearer and easier, and I think it gives a little interest to that side of the building too. So might consider what those comments were.
Thank you.
Mr. Bartlesmeyer.
So for the front lettering, I kind of agree with everyone where they discuss about relocating it. I just have a few things, somewhat issue with relocating it. One, I worry if we relocated it, will your sign guy recommend that they become larger because it's more filling the space, just like the back of the house are much larger than the front. And if that's the case, then we're asking for a larger variance than what is already requested. I also worry about signage on the front. It's basically a billboard for the business. If we move it back there, how hard will it be visibly from the street for traffic coming from the left, let's say the east side? Will that front protrusion roof block all the signage, and then you won't be able to see the signage until you're already past the building? So those are my two worries about relocating it. I understand the visibility as it is in the current location because of the two light posts. Smaller minor details that you would then have to also add lighting because you're just taking advantage of the existing lighting spot. So for the front, I don't have much of an issue with the variance, especially since Robin stated that they've done a similar variance before for the previous tenant on the front building. So I'm not that opposed to it. As for the rear, I have my one question for the signage on the rear for you that I'm not sure if your signage guy told you exactly why that signage is larger. Do you know Mr. Quinn?
My guess is just because of the location where it's at, just so it doesn't look. So I guess it looks proportional.
Yeah, that would have been my guess as well. As much about that, I'm more hesitant to recommend a larger variance on the rear of the property, considering at that point the signage is basically for the parking lot. So it's not like it's visibility for traffic and you're using it as basically a billboard for the business. It's more as just, hey, people walking in from the parking lot, here's the business. So I'm a little hesitant on a larger variance for the rear of property on that. As for the lighting, I mean, like as I stated earlier, this lighting's come up multiple times on the board. We've never made a recommendation for the lighting that I've been, as long as I've been on the board. So it has been a hot button, and it's usually a pretty straight up and down no. So
Okay. Is there, if I may, is there street lighting there that would give lighting on the building if it were moved? Do we know?
I do not.
We don't know. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members?
Well, I have one. I couldn't
Please.
get my hand up.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Parsons.
I was just wondering if anybody's considered external spotlights or something mounted on the building that play onto the sign. And that would kind of maybe solve some of the issue. That's another option, I guess.
Well,
Are there any? Please go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Quinn.
So on the back of the building, you figured we had to ask, but obviously if we can't go ahead and get the backlit, we would go ahead and have to do something similar to what they have on the front. I'm not saying that exact style, but obviously having to go ahead and light it up somewhat to go ahead and illuminate it.
Well, I meant the spotlights on the front, if that were possible, where they're not involved with the sign other than just a thought.
Are there any issues, well, I'll get to you just a minute, Clark, Ms. Clark. Are there any issues with the city of Wildwood with spotlights on those signs?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Signs are allowed to be externally lit by said spotlights. They're just not allowed to be internally lit unless by specific ordinance amending that. I think Dearborg's has a site-specific ordinance that does allow some of their signage to be internally lit, but that isn't the case here.
Okay. All right, Ms. Clark.
Yeah, from what everybody's saying, I think, I agree that it might be best if you can get the rest of your team to agree to doing the external lighting before you go through a variance, if you've got that all as one package. Because if you go in with, you want all of these variances on one package, it might not go through because we've had other people try to get, internal lighting and it didn't pass. So it's just something to think about before you take it to further that and the size too. I guess, I might be, 28 inches or 24 inches. That's not that much difference, but the 33 is an awful lot. Just my points.
Okay. Ms. Cave, go ahead. Still on mute.
Sorry about that. I just want to clarify that the Board of Adjustment does not necessarily vote on all the variances as a package. They are apt to decline one portion of the variance and then approve another portion of it. So I just want to make sure that that's clear to everybody.
Okay. Mr. Cohen?
I just wanted to mention, if you look at the Walgreens sign, it's externally lit. And it was a huge battle for them to get signage on the building, especially when you're talking about similar, I guess, to SSM. And they have their own sign regulations, but Walgreens finally gave in and their sign is just lit by external spotlights. That was my comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Quinn, anything further you want to add?
No, sir. Just thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. And thank you
Okay.
for the feedback too.
All right. And do we need to, we've kind of discussed it and you've gathered our comments, Robin, and is there anything further we need to do, I guess, now as a board, other than we've discussed it and pointed out the issues or concerns that board members have?
So, Mr. Chair, the next step here, assuming that all discussion has finalized, the staff will be drafting a memorandum that I will send out via email for your review prior to next Thursday's meeting. So if you do, hopefully I will summarize your comments, how I heard them tonight and correctly, but if there is anything you need altered, you can certainly email me back and let me know at that time. But that memorandum will be included with the materials and the recommendation report and put forth before the Board of Adjustment next Thursday.
Okay, very good. And I see on your agenda you provided for me in leading the meeting was I call for public comments if there, but since we have no other members of the public here, I don't believe, I think that's non-meaningful. So no official action is needed. That memorandum will be prepared and sent to us. I guess I will move to, are there any other items for the agenda this evening that anyone has? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quickly, since our last meeting, I have reached out to the city attorney regarding a few questions that were asked at the last meeting. I'll be sending out information on that. I have also inquired about potential dates for another workshop. And so I will send out those dates as well and see if we can get something on the books. It's not looking like it's going to be until July or August until he's available. But that will give us plenty of time. And so again, we'll work on putting together information. And if you still have your binders, you can bring them to the meeting because we'll be going through it and probably adding some information to that. And those of you that don't have binders, we're working on putting those together for you as well. So hopefully we'll get that on the calendar. And yeah, if anybody has any questions or suggestions before then, let me know.
Well, yeah, just that for the benefit of those, that's for the orientation and bringing everybody up to speed who may be newer, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yes,
just to
okay.
kind of go over some regulations and what's pertinent and what's not and things like that. Yeah, it's led generally mostly by our city attorney who just kind of gives a brief overview of everything. So it's usually really helpful and informative.
Okay, Ms. Clark?
Yeah, I have a question for Ms. Ripito, just to clarify. So as a point of order, what if there's items not on the agenda, is it correct that we can't debate those? We can only bring them up in miscellaneous and not go back to old business or different items if it's not on the agenda?
That is my understanding, yes.
Yes, that is correct, Councilmember Clark. Sorry, Mr. Chair, for interrupting.
No, let's go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, that your understanding there, Ms. Clark, Councilmember Clark, is correct.
Were there, if I may, are there some things that you want us to address at a future meeting that are from some prior meeting? Ms. Clark?
No, there
No.
are not. I just want, for sunshine law to make sure that we are, following the rules and not discussing something that's not on the agenda.
Okay, I understand. Very good. All right, well, is there anything else that any of the board members have? If not, our next meeting date, if needed, is June 8th, 2023, Thursday. My assumption is it will probably be live. I'm looking at our staff. And will we be both virtual and live if we have board members who are not able to attend in person?
That is correct. It will be a hybrid format, just as we have done in past meetings. This was a very special case.
Sure. Okay, very good. All right, well, a motion would be in order to adjourn. I see a motion from Ms. Clark to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, Mr. Bartlesmeyer, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you all for coming out. Have a great night.
Have a great night, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
All gets better.
Thank you.